Hey everyone, I am Ben from Easy Allies, and this is the best interview I've ever gotten to do. I'm here with one of my personal heroes, Suda51, the legendary game creator of classics like Killer 7 and so much more. I can't even, Shadows of the Damned, I can't even think of all the titles right now. I'm a little bit nervous, but also excited because I just got to play Let It Die, a kind of a mysterious game, kind of a game that we saw a long time ago under a different title, and now it's back, and I actually got my hands on it. And so I'm here to ask you a few questions, but this is how I want to open up. You described Let It Die as an extreme action game, not just a regular old action game, an extreme action game. What do you mean by that?
なんていうのかな、ただ単にバレンスなゲーム
So of course we did use extreme to describe the game, but it's just kind of a lot of things are going on. So I guess you could say for one thing it's quite violent. So of course a lot of other action games, a lot of violence, but of course thinking of like how much bloodshed there should be, and of course on his side he likes to push maybe like, you know, maybe 2 to 3 times your average game, just because that's what they like to do, just sort of elements like that. But of course with the world setting and how it's dark and gritty, and that the player is thrown into this tower and there's a lot of weird stuff going on, and you're going to go around and find out what's going on as you progress through the story, but also as you go and kill a bunch of things, and you know you have to try to stay alive and survive. So there's a lot of elements that come into this game, just not only being action and attacking, but you have to think of how you're going to do things and how you're going to survive in this world, and then try to figure out why you're there and what you're doing as you progress through the game.
You talked about all of the strange things that you encounter in this tower, and it was fascinating to me, like some of the weird, just little touches that I encountered. But the number one question I have, the character I need to know about, is the character that is in the logo of your game. It's the Grim Reaper. You're wearing a shirt with the Grim Reaper on it right now. And when you do like an awesome kill or you do something cool in the game, he comes up and he comments and he says, "Nice one." What is his deal? Is he an ally? Is he trying to help you out, or is there some sort of uneasy alliance there?
So in regards to our Reaper friend here, so you can say the player's thrown into this world. We don't really know what's going on, but as the player goes through, because it's not extremely a story-driven game compared to previous titles, not a lot of things are explained right there, but he is there to help explain. So as you go through, he's going to come out and tell you what's going on, give you the lay down. He's kind of like your guide, but also to all players, he looks up to them. And, you know, in the Japanese culture, I'm not sure if you were familiar with the word senpai. Yes. A lot of people are starting to understand what that is now, but he calls everyone senpai because he looks up to them and is like, "Man, you're so cool." And he follows them around, and he's going to be there to tell you what's up, and really looks up to the player and really enjoys to see when they get a lot of the action out.
You mentioned that this isn't necessarily a story-driven game, that it has this really cool multiplayer aspect to it. When I was playing, I almost got sort of a Dark Souls vibe because I encountered the avatar of another player, like data from a dead player, and I got to fight them. Could you kind of elaborate on that system and how it works, and why people who are going through Let It Die would want to take on those extra challenging player avatars?
So in regards to the death data, as you could see when you came across another player's data, one of the interesting things that we wanted to put in the game was, well, you're going to be going through the game, and of course, even though you're going to die a lot, and you know when you die, you lose some things that you've accumulated, but there are certain aspects and certain things that you will not lose. Of course, that's things that you've built on and leveled up on and kind of kept in. You're going to keep going through this cycle of, you know, playing and dying, and every time you play, you're going to keep getting various kinds of equipment. You're going to look different, and you're going to kind of deck your guy out differently each time. And we kind of wanted to make use of that, because every time you die, it's, well, if you're going to lose things, it's kind of a loss. So by using your data, what you've created up to the point where you die, we're going to reuse that and put that in other players' worlds to really make it kind of fun. Like you leave a place where they know that that's you because your name is on it and what you look like and what your last playthrough was like. So kind of a very interesting approach to an asynchronous PvP aspect for one of the PvP aspects that we do have in the game set up.
Is there any way, like let's say I die and my death data goes into another player's game, will I know if that player kills me, or what sort of stat tracking is there? What kind of interaction is there with that data?
So of course we definitely want to be able to share that, you know, when your data is out there, to give you information on what it's done while it's out on the prowl in other people's systems. We're also looking at other options of how we can make use of that to make sure that it's actually kind of cool that you gain from dying as well. So if there's anything that you could potentially gain, be it some sort of resource on how well they do when they're out there after you've died, it'd be kind of cool. So we're looking at various options, and that might be something that you can look forward to.
My favorite thing about every single game that you've made is just the style that it has and the flavor. And anytime I play a Suda game, there's always a moment when I say to myself, what the hell is going on? And I got a little bit of that here, because when you die, there's this insurance woman who just pops up and she's got these little signs. She says, do you want to buy insurance? Or just the Grim Reaper that's wearing like these 3D glasses. I'm not sure if that's what they are, but he's got this crazy outfit, and it seems like that Suda51 flavor is present in this game, even though it has this PvP element, even though it's not necessarily story driven. You're getting gear and you're upgrading your character. Was it difficult putting that style and that flavor into the game, even though it has a different structure than a lot of other things that you've worked on?
Compared to previous games, of course, a lot of times we were more story driven, and he would make the scenario and the story and then would focus on making the game based off of that. But this time we focused on the gameplay first, and of course this was with the a combination of everyone at Grasshopper, and of course with Gung Ho, and of course the CEO of Gung Ho, Kazuki Morishita, for figuring out how the game was going to be with the gameplay mechanics. And therefore, based off of that, he then had his part would be more on very more specific pieces of the game instead of having a story to push forward. Of course, there's story elements in here, and of course characters that you saw, like the insurance agent and our Grim Reaper, is things that he was like, there are things like that, and how characters or the actions should be done are things that he more paid attention to as everyone put together the basis of the game. And of course other things, like when the staff made the game for, they would make it the amount of blood that would come out would be like a normal person, but he said, this is something that I have, it's got to be 3 to 5 times that. So there are very specific things in the game that he's trying to get. He definitely has his part in it for like the world that it is, and how things are executed in this world, and specific details like blood and how much should come out of here, or certain characters, or the way they come out and interact, and just those things you can definitely look forward to are the things that he was able to focus on and put his part into this game that really gives it that feel.
I just want to say really quickly, great job on the blood. I like how it just gushes out of him. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. My final question is, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, Let It Die kind of transformed from another game, Lily Bergamo, and it has a very different tone to it than that game did, and the character that we saw in Lily Bergamo is not present in Let It Die. How did that transformation happen? What sort of development process did it go to? How did we get to Let It Die as we know it today?
So when we started off with Lily Bergamo, of course, at that point it was very story-driven, but then we moved away from that. We wanted to focus more on the gameplay mechanics. After the gameplay mechanics were focused on and then kind of changed, it seemed that it didn't fit anymore with what we were thinking for Lily Bergamo, and based off of that, of course, some parts of the world are still the same. Lily Bergamo takes place also in Japan, and so some of the ideals and designs for using Japan were still there. So it became Japan post-apocalyptic, year 2027, and it's just a very different with this tower and everything. So a lot of things changed. The scenario had to change after we focused on the gameplay mechanics, as it just didn't seem to fit anymore with the original Lily Bergamo concept. So we were focused on the game, and the game changed so much over the past couple of years that it just didn't make sense to keep it that way, and we had to make something brand new based off of all the changes as we focused on how the game was going to be played and executed.
Gotcha. Suda51,
Yep.
This has been an honor. I've wanted to interview you for years, and just sitting with you on this couch talking about blood, talking about Grim Reapers, it's a dream come true. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.